Woo, such a hearty welcome. Thank you. I think a good place to start would be introducing myself, right? So I have a very embarrassing photo popping up in a moment. This is me in a nutshell, okay? This is who I am in the inner me. Exactly. So I have the privilege and opportunity of traveling around the world and telling people about Jesus because I love Jesus. I grew up in the South. I'm a proper South boy. Got the literal scars to show it. Yeah. And it is tough, but man, we grow tough. Yes. And what I love about the South is I love that when I travel around the world and people say, how is God, what is God doing? I say, my God is bigger than your God because we need him so much more. And literally, I love that because we need God so much more. Like, I was just driving here and chatting with my Bolts driver, Augustine, and he was just saying, is the South really as bad as they say? And I said, yes and no. And I said, yes, those crazy things do happen, but no, because God's doing something really cool. And each of you get to be a part of that, and me included. And that's where our job comes in, okay? And so I'll share a bit about myself as we go along. But I want to start with just one question, and that's all we're going to deal with tonight together. We've got, an hour together, right? I've got an hour to talk? No, I'm joking. I got 2 hours. Okay, I love the motivation. So we're going to dig into one question. The question is Jesus the center of your life? Because if you understand that, if that's really true, then your entire life is transformed, okay? But let's start with the story. And I'm going to need, just before I tell that story, I'm going to need 2 volunteers. I'm going to need your tallest, biggest guy. And, come on. How you doing? What's your name?
Austin. My name's Austin.
Austin, can you please hold that for me? Okay, and would you be willing to stand over there for me, please, Austin? And then I need your most petite young lady, please. Thank you. Would you be willing to stand by the offering boxes, please? Okay, so the story goes, and this is a true story. In 1633, Galileo Galilei, okay? I think I said that wrong, all right? Either way, he was put to death because he believed something, okay? He used his telescopes to look out into space, and he said, the earth is not the center of the universe. And at that time, that was a over-the-moon realization because everyone, the entire church, the entire world for millennia had believed that the earth was the center of the universe. And so everything revolved around the earth. But the reality is, Galileo said no. He said, the sun is the center of the universe, and the earth revolves around the sun, okay? Now, we know today through science that that's partly true, but also wrong, because the sun isn't the center of the universe. So right now, I've got, if this was the size of the sun, and can you hold that for me, brother? If that was the size of the earth, this would be the size of the sun, okay? And this is about how far it is away as well. A little further, actually, if you want to move, you're welcome to. And do you see the perspective? We've got it so wrong. We're not even close to the center of our solar system. Never mind our galaxy, never mind the universe. I had the privilege, you guys can you take a seat? You can keep those things with you. Because, bro, can I grab the ping pong ball from you, please? Sorry. Thank you. Because this will be a lovely reminder. She's sitting exactly the same distance, okay? So every now and then I'll ask you to throw that up. But I had the privilege of just coming back from an outreach in Thailand, and we shared the gospel there. And by accident, I don't take sugar with my tea, and so I pushed the sugar jar away, and some of it spilled on the floor. And if that little granule, okay, was the size of the earth, right now where I'm standing would be the center of the universe, okay? So Thailand is in Asia, and we're right now in South Africa. And that's how far we are from the center of the universe. And do you see this image? What's so beautiful about this is we as humans have got it so wrong. We think we're the center of the universe. And we think we're the center of our lives. And you see that generates so many problems. So what do we do about that? How do we live, and how do we find out the answers? So first I want to propose that the reason we think that is because we've got pride in our hearts. Okay? So what is pride? And I'm going to propose a different definition. They've put lots of definitions out there, and those are really helpful, and almost all of them are accurate. But I want to propose the definition that pride is acting on an incorrect view of ourselves because we have an incorrect view of God. Can I say that again? Pride is acting on an incorrect view of ourselves because we have an incorrect view of God. Who's got their Bibles with them? Okay, phones include, that's fine. Lovely, lovely. So we're going to go through the entire Bible together in these next few minutes. Are you ready? Okay? Okay, so in Genesis 3, if you want to open up there, you're welcome to. Genesis 3, we see the very first leader, okay? The very first leader and the very first human fall because of pride, okay? He was living the most lit life ever. And you as a church have explored this so much already. But he had everything he could have dreamed of. He had the relationship with God. He had the contentment. He had the peace. He had all of that. And one day Satan comes to him and says, is that really true? And Adam acts out of an incorrect view of himself, forgetting that he is not God. Because he forgets who God is, that God's God and he's not God. And so out of pride he acts. And guess what happens? He falls. And the messed upness that we see in the world today is as a result of everything we experience. So are you with me on this? Yeah, because pride at its roots is in having an incorrect view of ourselves because we've got an incorrect view of God. How many of you really enjoy English? It's okay if you don't, but how many of you really enjoy English? Can you give me the definition of a preposition, please? Okay, that's okay. I won't expose anyone. Basically, in a nutshell, maybe don't quote me in your exam, but it's in the word, okay? It's a position word, okay? Basically. And what pride does is pride prepositions us for a fall. Because pride is a preposition. Because when we act on an incorrect view of ourselves, because we've got an incorrect view of God, we fall. Because we were made to walk with God. So we've got that. There's a book that will come up on the screen, which is so beautiful. A friend of mine wrote it, Mark Herbert. He's the guy that walks alongside me a lot. And he speaks into my life, and he starts off the book with a whole, first 7 chapters on one theme. And he says, know yourself. Because if you can't know yourself, you can't know others and then lead others. And so know yourself. So how do we get a correct view of ourselves by getting a correct view of God so that we don't act in pride, but so that we live in humility and enjoy the freedom that comes with living with God? How do we do that? Okay? So I want us to turn, if you do that with me, to 1 Peter 5, verses 5 to 7. It will be on the screens, but I want to challenge you to check God's word, because I might have just edited 1 or 2 words on the screen. I'm joking. I haven't. But it's so important that we stick to God's word and we know it in its entirety and in its truth. Let me just do this. Sorry. So 1 Peter verses 5. And I'm going to read it a few times with us. But I'm going to start, and Peter says to the church, and he says, young men, in the same way, be submissive to those who are older. All of you, clothe yourselves with humility towards one another, because God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. And he doesn't stop there. He goes to the very next verse, not even a paragraph break. He says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares about you. I love that. So we're going to break that down, but I'm going to start with the first one where he says, young men, in the same way, be submissive to those that are older than you. And I want to really challenge us, 99% of us here are Gen Z, right? Woo! And the reality of that is that we can walk around and we think we know it. And we praise God, with access to internet, we know a lot, but we don't know it. And that's where our call is. We need to learn to submit to those who are older than us, not only because they're wiser, not only because they got more experience, but because God says so. Because when we do that, we have the privilege of obeying Jesus and learning what it's like to learn. And so I want to challenge us on that as a youth and as a church. As young people, let's walk in step with those who are older than us. Be submissive. And I love that submissive isn't this like push down. And submissive is literally a military term used to say keep in step. It's like keep in step so that we can walk together. Because if you're not going to keep in step with me, we can't go together. I love doing the three-legged race. Because if you're not in step, you're not getting anywhere. And as a church, as a community, we're not just 3 legs. We're a million legs joined together by Jesus' blood. And we've got to learn to walk together in step. And that requires us as young people to learn to do that first. But then secondly, I want to look at first so we looked at young men, but then it says, how do we spot pride? See, and Peter digs into this very beautifully for us. And right now on the screen, you've got the really awesome anime. Yes. Woo! Okay. So I got very heavily judged when I was sharing with some of my friends that I cry through animes. And I secretly, I even pray for the characters, even though I know, guys, why are you laughing at me? I even pray for the characters, even though I know the script is already written. Because I am so invested in them. And One Punch Man is such a beautiful anime, okay? It's on my wholesome scale, I rate things through wholesomeness. On my wholesome scale, it's a 95, okay? So I can recommend it if you're wanting to get into anime. If you're not, you can still keep judging me. That's okay. But if your life was the One Punch Man series, which character would you be? And now I'm not going to call anyone out, but if you said Saitama, which is One Punch Man, you'd be wrong. Because the main character of your life is not you. It's God. You see, you then get to be Genos. You get to be God's best friend. And you get to be like learning from him, his apprentice. And you get to be like, who's the Scarface guy? Help me remember. King. You could be king, and you could be like an OP guy and you could have so many skills and actually like be a hypocrite, because that's who king is. But anyway, and you could do that. But you get relationship with God. You see, if your life was an anime, you would not be the main character. Because God would be the main character. And I want to stress this, because when we understand this, we have the freedom to live. And we'll look at that in a moment. But Peter here, he says, young men, in the same way, be submissive to those who are older than you. And then he commands all of us. And he says, all of you, clothe yourselves with humility, young and old, male and female, whatever race, whatever you want to class yourself as, clothe yourselves in humility towards one another. Why? And then he quotes a proverb. And what I love about this is that we are all called to be leaders. Okay? I quoted from a leadership book, and you might be sitting here and saying, Josh, I'm not even a leader. But if you know and love Jesus, you are. Because he's called you to lead the world to the reality and the truth of who he is and what he's done. And you say, but like, I'm not even the head of my household. I'm not even the oldest child, or I'm not even a prefect at school, or I'm not even like a popular in my class. How can I be a leader? But if you know and love Jesus, you're a witness to the world. And you're leading the world. So you're a leader. So there's one leader in history which I love studying, and that's Solomon. Solomon is like a really young guy who gets into power because crazy events, God wants him in power. And so he gets into power and he's like, I don't know what to do. And he's got no clue how to lead. And so he says, like, God, I don't know what to do. I don't have the wisdom to lead these people. And God comes to him in a vision and says, you can ask for me for anything, Solomon, and I'll give it to you. And Solomon could have asked for a woman, he could have asked for money, he could have asked for anything. And he says, I want wisdom, God, so I can lead these people. And this is the same wisdom that Solomon writes to us. And he says, here's the wisdom I've received from God to be able to be a leader. So you as leaders, here's what I want to say. And he says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. God shoots down the proud. Why? Because they think they're the center of the universe. But when you realize he's the center of the universe, he lifts you up. Because it's all about him. Because as he rises, as his name gets glorified, you get to go with him because he wants you to share that with others. More and more. Do you see what's happening? So I want to ask you, is Jesus the center of your life? Okay, so if we look at how do we spot pride, we can spot pride by seeing, okay, I'm acting out of an incorrect view of myself because I've got an incorrect view of God because he's not the center of my life. And so I'm in opposition to God because God opposes those who oppose him. Do you see that? God isn't opposed to those who are with him because he lifts those up. He's opposed to those who oppose him because those who oppose him think that they're the center of the universe. So are you with me, guys? So I know we're going really deep, but it's so important that we get what Peter's trying to say. Because if we miss this and we come and we clap, and it's so important that we worship right. But if we do that, but we walk out of here and Jesus isn't the center of our lives, we've wasted our entire time here. And Pastor Gavin is like wasted his ministry and all the years of study and sowing into this community. Because the goal is that Jesus would be the center of our lives. So if we spot pride by seeing if we're in opposition to God, then how do we conquer pride? Because it's one thing to spot, that's the first step in the problem. But how do we conquer pride? And Peter gives us the solution. I love it that God's word isn't some hammering rod. It's not simply the 10 Commandments, don't do, don't do, don't do. If you read the 10 Commandments, straight after that, God gives the answer to fulfilling that. Same here. Peter says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. So how do we live that? He says, humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. So what is if the definition of pride is having an incorrect view of yourself because you've got an incorrect view of God, humility is the same backwards, right? But C.S. Lewis says a really lovely thing. Who's a fan of the Narnia series? Oh, yeah. C.S. Lewis says something really beautiful. He says, humility is not thinking less of yourself. Because that would be wrong. That's just another form of pride. Where I think, oh, woe is me, and oh, I'm so dumb, or I'm so silly, or I'm so ugly, or whatever. That's having an incorrect view of yourself because you've got an incorrect view of who God is. He's created you in his image. Okay? So then humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. Why can you think of yourself less? Because you're thinking more of God. I love that. You guys are with me. Because you're thinking so much more of God. If God is the center of your life, then you've humbled yourself. And remember, we said pride is a preposition, okay? And it prepositions us for a fall. Humility, likewise, is a preposition, but it prepositions us to rise. Because where is humility? Humility is realizing that I'm under God. I'm under God's mighty hand. Because God is the one who's God. And I'm just a creature. Which is amazing, but I'm just a creature. So do you see, we need the correct view of ourselves, but we only get a correct view of ourselves by looking at God. If we don't know who God is, how do we know ourselves? And that's where we see the world has just gone pear-shaped, and more than pear-shaped. Because they don't know who God is, so how can they even begin to know who they are? And so how can they even act right? Because everything we do flows from our being. Are you with me, guys? Powerful stuff from Peter. And so he says, submit yourselves, humble yourselves under God's mighty hand so that he can lift you up in due time. And the lifting up is always because of him, not about us. Because if God's the main character of our lives, then it's all about him. And I love the byproduct. And this is where we stop so often. Who loves Instagram verses, Bible verses on Instagram? They're amazing, but they're also terrible. They're terrible because they're taken out of context. And so I want to use this Instagram verse that says, cast all your anxiety upon God because he cares about you. And we love to post that and we're like, yeah. But we didn't read the first few verses. It's humble yourselves under God's mighty hand. And then because the byproduct of humility is absolute and pure freedom from anxiety. Can I repeat that one more time? The byproduct of humility, the byproduct, not the aim, the byproduct of humility is absolute and freedom from anxiety. You see, because we can cast all our anxieties on him because he cares about us. Because God is the main character of the story. I love it. I cry and pray for Saitama because he's the main character of the story. Genos doesn't have to worry about how the story is going to roll out. King doesn't have to stress about the next villain that's going to come. Yes, he does, but he doesn't need to. Because it's Saitama who's the main character. If God is the main character of our lives, we no longer need to worry. about what's going to happen next because it's about God. We don't need to worry about where the provision is going to come from next because it's about God. We don't need to worry about where our comfort and our security and our protection is going to come from because it's all about God. Like, yes, we are called to be wise. Wise as a serpent and gentle as doves. But it's not about us. And that's the great freedom that Jesus came to say is, guys, I've come to earth to show you that it's not about you. My family, we're hilariously terrible sometimes. And we have this saying where someone will walk in the room and they say, sorry, what were you talking about? And we'll say, everything's not about you, okay? And in a sense, that's a true statement. Because everything is not about you. Because everything is about God. My sister, you mean, if this was the size of the earth, that would be the size of the sun. And if the earth was a sugar granule, okay, even smaller than a sugar granule, and it was in Thailand right now, in Chiang Mai, and we were here, and this was the center of the universe, that's how far we'd be. We're not the center of the universe. So I want to ask you, if Jesus is really the center of your life, how's your worry life going? Because you can measure how close and how well you're revolving around God according to your worry scale. And the beauty is that God, by His Holy Spirit, enables us to keep in orbit with God. Not by our own strength. Our humility enables us to submit to the Holy Spirit who keeps us in orbit to God. Because He's the center of our lives. So some of you are sitting here and you're saying, Josh, I don't know this Jesus as the center of my life, but I want to. Okay? And to you guys, I'll talk in a moment. But a lot of you here already know Jesus and you love Him. And you're asking the question of, how do I now live? How do I grow in humility to make sure that Jesus is the center of my life? Because we live in a day and age where like social media defines so much of how we think and how we live. And you go on social media and it's all about you. What's my story? Post my story. Post my posts. Please become my friend. And like those are great. There's opportunities for connection and there's great opportunities for building community, and that leads to in-person, face-to-face community. And so I don't want to downgrade that. But there's a great toxicness and a great like oppression that comes with social media where we forget that it's not about us. Where it forces us to think it's all about you and you've got to make sure you look good. And God's like, no, I don't care how you look. In the sense of like, I've made you in my image. You are beautiful whether people say so or not, whether you think so or not. I've made you in my image. And so it's not about you. Come and follow me. Let me be about me and get on board with me. That's what God's saying. And that's what He says here. He says, you get the freedom to humble yourselves under God's mighty hand so that He can lift you up, and then you have freedom from anxiety. Peter uses this lovely thing. He's a fisherman. And he literally uses a fisherman's term, and he says, cast, literally fling. I prefer the translation fling. Fling all your anxieties to Him because He cares about you. That's who God is. God is a God of compassion. And God is a God of justice and of power and of love. And He wants to know what's stressing you out so that you can give it to Him, so that you can stop stressing about it because it's not about you. Will you let Him? That's the question I want to pose to you tonight. So, how do we grow in humility? If you've ever ridden a motorbike or a bicycle or anything, all of you have, I'm assuming. If you haven't, please come and speak to Gavin afterwards. We need to create a ministry for that. No, I'm joking. If you've ever done that, when you come to a hole in the road, how do you miss the hole? You don't look at the hole, because if you look at the hole, you're going to go towards the hole. Because where your eyes go, you go. So I look to the right or to the left of the hole. Likewise, how do I miss pride? I don't look at pride. I don't focus on me. Because it's not about thinking less of myself. It's thinking of myself less because I'm thinking more of Christ. So I want to give 5 very practical ways of how to do this. Okay? And you probably all know this already. And all of you, if you know and love Jesus, are doing this. And I want to encourage you to do. But first of all, God has given us 5 love languages. Okay? That He wants to connect with us. Because love is not prideful. 1 Corinthians 13, love does not boast. It is not prideful. So God's given us 5 love languages so that we can practice humility and so that we can connect with the God who is humble Himself, who came down to earth, who humbled Himself and taught us what it's like. So who knows the 5 love languages off by heart? Someone is very eager for the dating world. Um, 5 love languages. First of all, okay, is quality time. Okay, there's no order, but I want to start with quality time. First of all, there's prayer. God has given us the opportunity to spend quality time with Him. And the beauty of prayer is it reminds us of taking our eyes off what we're going through, off ourselves, off the issues, off the struggles, off the pain, off the joy, of all of that, and we fix our eyes on God. And we realize, God, I've been so fixated about the moons of, if we want to use the space metaphor, the moons of my exams that are floating around me, that I've forgotten about the Son, Jesus Christ, who's the center of my life. And the beauty of prayer is it's not about me, God, it's about you. So we've got quality time. We've then also got words of affirmation. God's given us His word, and the beautiful thing is it doesn't affirm who we are. It affirms who He is. And because it affirms who He is, we get affirmed because we are because of who He is. Are you with me on this? And the beauty of this is it reminds us all about you, God. The whole Bible is written about you. And it's about you. And my story, my tiny little life, which is beautiful and small and long and however you want to view it, fits into yours because it's all about you. So that's the beauty of quality time and words of affirmation. But the other one, there's 5 others. The other one is physical touch. We have the privilege of humbling ourselves by physically touching God through His church, His bride. The person sitting next to you, I know they might smell a little bit, but they're made in the image of God. And they are God's hands and feet in this world. They're God's physical presence by His Holy Spirit here. And so you get to practice humility with these people next to you. So if you're a young person, you get to practice humility by submitting to those who are older than you. If there's people who are younger than you, which is everybody has got some people younger than them, you get to practice humility by walking in step with them. So that's our call, is we get to practice humility here at church first, in this community, with the people that we live with. So we've got quality time, we've got words of affirmation, we've got physical touch. Come on, who can give me another one? Acts of service, okay? Acts of service is we get to worship God, and we get to serve God with our words, with our song, with our lives. In our entire being, worship isn't limited to the stage, okay? Worship is limited to our entire lifespan. And we are eternal creatures that will live forever, either with God or without Him. Do you know that heaven is the only place in eternity that has a center? Can I give you guys some homework that is really fun? I know you're in exam season. I'm also in exam season. I've got 2 more exams to go, and I wrote 2 already this week. And actually, that passage that we just, let me get his name right. The offering guy. Nash read, I had to translate into Hebrew on Monday, which in my exam, it was very fun and a little bit scary. But I'm also in exam season, but here's a piece of homework. Revelations 4, okay? If you can go and underline every single preposition just before the word throne, you'll find something very cool. You can actually turn with me there, and we'll have finished going through the whole Bible. So Genesis, we looked at Adam. Heaven, everything revolves around God in the center of the throne. It says from the throne, these things happen. To the throne, praises are given. Around the throne, the 24 elders. And from the throne, and to the throne, around the throne, by the throne, in the throne, on the throne. Because everything is about God. Heaven has a center, but you want to know something very scary? Hell has no center. Because everybody thinks it's about them. And they still do. And so that's the scary part, guys, is the beauty is that God has given us the freedom to live an anxiety-free life with Him at the center of our lives, because He's the main character of our lives. So is He. But I've only got 4 love languages. So those who are well-versed, would you give me the last one, please? Sorry? Gifts, okay? Gifts. You have the greatest gift in the world if you know and love Jesus. And that is the truth of who Jesus is and what He's done. Are you sharing that? Because if Jesus is really the center of your life and you've received that gift, you want every single person to have that gift too. I get the privilege of traveling around the world because I have got the gift of evangelism. But every single person is called to evangelize. to share the hope of who Jesus is. You may not have the gift like me. That does not give you an excuse. Just because I don't have the gift of pastoring and caring for people doesn't mean I mustn't care. Likewise, if Jesus is really the center of your life, who are you telling that to? And who are you sharing that with? Because if it's not about you, then everything is about Jesus. Then you get to share that, and you want everyone else to have the freedom of living an anxiety-free life. More than that, because Jesus is at the center. But if he isn't, then you're keeping quiet. So I want to ask you, how's your sharing life going? Okay? Because that's a measure on how centered your life is around Christ. So these 5 things, these 5 love languages are really helpful for those who know and love Jesus. But if you don't know and love Jesus yet, these are simply self-help. And they're going to be really great, but they're going to separate you from God more and more. And you're going to feel more and more guilty inside. So I want to challenge us, for each one of us, when we mess up and Christ is in the center of our lives, through an action or through our whole lives, we come to him in confession. We say, Jesus, I realize I've messed up. I realize I've thought it's all about me. And I've allowed the messed upness of Adam, who messed up in the first place, and has affected everyone else, to affect me and how I live. Please will you forgive me? Please will you come into my life and become the center of my life? That throne, Jesus, that you will sit on in heaven and that you are sitting on right now in heaven. Please, I have a throne in my heart. And I've been sitting on that throne for too long. Please will you come and sit on that throne. And please will you now dictate how I live. That means on the throne, he now gets to call the shots because he's the main character. He then becomes the one who's got to be responsible to care for you, which is so cool. He's the one who's got to be responsible for all of those things. And we get to then trust him in that. And will you get it right? Good news, bad news? Who wants that? Good news first, bad news? Bad news. You're going to get it wrong. You want the good news now? He's never going to let you go. Okay? You are going to get it wrong. And when you get it wrong, go back to him and say, Jesus, I've messed up. I've forgotten that you're the center of my life. You're the center of the universe. You're the center of everything. I come back to you. Please forgive me. And teach me now again, maybe for the 19th billionth time, to have you at the center of my life. And it's a daily process. And the joy of that is you get to live completely free from fear, completely free from anxiety. And that's my story. From a guy who was born in Resenville, went through depression, okay, tried to find life in every other place. Literally every other place. I tried marks, and I thought marks could make me happy, so I got the best marks in the world. I wasn't happy. So I got the worst marks in the world. Wasn't happy. So I just kind of averaged out so I wouldn't annoy my parents. And I thought that could satisfy. I thought money could satisfy, so I opened up a tuck shop outside school to rival the tuck shop at school. And I made loads of money. Was I satisfied? No. I thought friends could make me happy, so I got all the friends, and I got the coolest friends in my grade. I got all of the cool guys, all the cool ladies. Was I satisfied? No. I mean, yeah, it was cool to chill out with them, but I was still empty inside, even when I was around them. So I thought, hey, I'm an okay-looking guy, so how about I try girlfriends? And so I tried a girlfriend, still wasn't satisfied, so I tried girlfriends. Yeah, 4 at once. It's a mission. But, do you want the good news or the bad news? The bad news, okay? They can't satisfy you, okay? You want the good news? They can't satisfy you, okay? The reality is I tried to find life in everything. Thankfully, I didn't turn to drugs because they'd scared me enough at school with all those pictures. Oh, you know those pictures. But I tried to find life everywhere else, and that then sent me into a spiral of depression, and even to a point of attempting suicide 3 times. And it's a miracle I stand here before you. You see, my story is so much like your stories. I've had over 30 stitches all over my body for loads of different operations and reasons. And I have more scars on the outside. I have scars on the outside, and I have a lot. But some of you sitting here and watching online have more scars on the inside than I have on my outsides. And I was in that really dark cellar of a place. Literally. And I remember I only ever went to church because my dad happened to be the pastor. And you can't avoid church if that's the case. But I had an okay relationship with my dad. And so I went out of respect to him. And I can't remember what he preached about on June 2013. I can't remember what he spoke about. I can't remember what the worship sang about, but I remember that night saying, Jesus, I'm done with this. I'm really going to pull the plug tonight. But if you're real, if you're there, please show yourself. And nothing happened. Like no bright lights, no angel from heaven. But from that moment on, I asked Jesus to be the center of my life. And I've had the journey of walking with him for over 9+ years and learning to walk in step with him. And it's so freeing, guys. And I want to tell you that same freedom is here for you. Just as I was in this dark cell of depression, Jesus met me in that darkness. And he took me by the hand and walked me up out of the darkness into the light and has taught me how to live in the light with him at the center, with him as the main character. So I want to ask you, is he the main character of your life? Because if he's not, I'd like to pray a prayer with you now. Now, the prayer is not magical, okay? It's literally the starting point. It's that first quality time, love relationship, love language. And you simply say, Jesus, please be the center of my life. So let us pray. Let's pray together. Jesus, I thank you so much that you are the center of the universe. Whether we want to believe it or not, you are. And Jesus, some of us here today have forgotten that you're the center of the universe and that you are the center of our lives and want to be the center of our lives and must be. We want to ask your forgiveness. And so if that's you today and you don't, and Jesus isn't the center of your life, or he was the center of your life, but you've distanced yourself from him and you've flown out of orbit. If that's you here today, would you pray this prayer with me? Dear Jesus, I realize I've messed up. And I've forgotten that it's not about me. But it's all about you, Jesus. And Jesus, you came to die on the cross to take away all my sin that separates me from having you at the center of my life. Thank you that you died for me. Please, will you come into my life and be the center of my life? Jesus, that lovely little throne that's in my heart, it's yours. It will always be yours. Please help me to let it be yours. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. And I want to encourage you guys, if that was you and you prayed that, I didn't do a show of hands and I didn't do that because this is a decision that changes all of eternity for you. And I want you to, if the leaders can just raise their hands of the active youth, if you can just raise your hands, and please can I ask, can you connect with one of these leaders? It's so important that you connect with them and say, hey, I made the decision tonight to have Jesus at the center of my life. I want him to be the center of my life. I need him to be the center of my life. Because that's the greatest thing ever.